What's up, family? Welcome back to another video. Give this video a big thumbs up if you get some value from this video. And also subscribe and join the family if you haven't. So I want you guys to sit back, grab a drink, and I'm talking about like some tea. You know what I'm saying? Grab a drink and get ready because we need to talk. And it's not just about the headline stuff like Gavin Newsom got caught lying or Trump brought receipts, right? Nah, that's surface level. We're going to dive deeper. This is about what that moment really exposes, not just about Newsom or Trump, but about how power works, how narratives get built, and how the truth is being treated like a tactic instead of a value. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example, right? Because I always like to break it down from a childlike perspective, right? Let's say you're talking to your girlfriend, fellas, or ladies, you talking to your man, and basically y'all are having a conversation recycling the same problem, and y'all keep talking about he keep talking about the same issue over and over and over, and she's talking about the same issue to him over and over and over, right? And there's nothing wrong with, and you should, because there's a balance, and you should um give some concern because you love them, you care about them, you have best interest, considering what they saying. Maybe they want to vent, maybe they need some advice, whatever the case may be. But however, you may listen to them vent, and you may chime in and suggest some advice like, hey, I understand how you feel, but I think you really should look at it from this perspective. You know what I'm saying? Just to keep them in the right direction because you have their best interests, right? So sometimes fellas, you may gotta suggest to your girl, look, don't look at it that way. Look at it this way. I'm gonna give you a little bit of advice for the long game of the situation. And same thing for the ladies. But then if they keep recycling the same conversation of still complaining or nagging or whining about the situation, as men and a woman too, you start looking at the conversation like, okay, I gave you the advice. I listened to you vent. um you know we had a solution based conversation where I had value to look at the situation, and now you're just continuing to mention the situation. Now it doesn't have no value because now it's just a tactic of you feeling like you just be able to vent and keep speaking on something where now it has no longer substance because we already have spoken about it. um, and there's nothing wrong with venting or expressing your go through, but then also through your go through, as we all know that that's discomfort. That's why they keep talking about it, right? In the relationship, they keep talking about it because it's uncomfortable and it's something that stresses them out or agitates them or is challenging them. They're having a challenging day, but there's still growth within discomfort. So even through that agitation or even that challenging day, there's something to be learned. But when there's no conversation that's productive when it comes to the value of the substance that's getting out of the conversation or the situation, then it's just you just speaking in a blanket situation with no value whatsoever. So then it turns into, what are we talking about? Right? You can have all the narratives, and going back to my example, you can have all the whining and complaining all you want, but if you don't extract the value out of it, you just whining. And at the end of the day, there's no value in whining if you're not going through your go through to see the light on the other side. So you'll never grow. You'll just keep being a whiner. Well, it's in the same situation when it comes to politics. No matter how we look at Trump's side or Gavin Newsom's side and the whole narratives that being pushed, what is the actual value that we need to extract here to be better people, to be better as a country, and also to dive deeper, having a different perspective, a thought provoking conversation that leads to, you know, value that we can extract from it by having a productive conversation. So that's what I'm talking about, family, breaking it down from a childlike perspective. So we're going to go deeper here. And I got some clips, and this is about what that moment really exposes, is where I want to dive deeper into. Not just about Newsom or Trump, but how power works, how narratives get built, and how the truth is being treated like that tactic that I told you about instead of a value. Because if you've been paying attention, and I mean really, really paying attention, something bigger is happening here, of course. And you either gonna understand it, and what's understood don't need to be explained because you have your eyes open, being curious and having curiosity, and also trying to figure out what's the catch here to open up your eyes and think deeper, or you're gonna miss it. So we're seeing trust collapse. We're seeing people flip sides. And most importantly, we're seeing how chaos gets weaponized when leadership checks out. So let's break this down with straight up common sense because I don't like to live in a world of theory. I like to live in a world with real life examples presented for us because then we can have actual effective conversation because we're able to substantiate our point or our argument, right? So this ain't cable news talking points. This is grown folks talk. We're not picking sides. We're picking through the lies. Okay. So the situation starts simple. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, claims Trump never called him, not once. Didn't even leave a voicemail. He tweeted it publicly, basically throwing shade and saying, wow, this president is out here deploying Marines and doesn't even know who he's talking to, right? That's the whole vibe. Trump's out of touch. I'm the same one here. This is Gavin Newsom perspective. But then, boom, Trump comes back and drops literal receipts, screenshots from his phone, call logs showing he called Newsom twice. First call was missed. Second one lasted 16 minutes. Now, look, you don't have to like Trump to acknowledge facts here. He had proof, he had timestamps, he had everything. So, what do we do with that? Because if Newsom knew they talked and still went online acting like it never happened, that's not just spin, that's deception. And it's the kind of thing that makes people stop believing what these folks say, right? But with no further ado, let's check out one of the clips because I have plenty of clips. Let's check that out.
Between Gavin Newsom and President Trump. Gavin Newsom, after President Trump said in the noon hour in the Oval Office that he called him yesterday or the other day, Gavin Newsom tweeted the following. He said, quote, "There was no call. Not even a voicemail. Americans should be alarmed that a president deploying Marines on our streets doesn't even know who he's talking to." Well, President Trump contacted me from Air Force One on his way to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where he'll be in just a little while. He said the first call to Gavin Newsom was not picked up. The second call Gavin picked up. We spoke for 16 minutes. I told him to essentially, quote, and this is quoting the president, "get his ass in gear and stop the riots, which were out of control more than anything else. This shows what a liar he is. Said I never called." So here is the evidence. And here is the call log that the president sent me from his phone. This was June the 7th. Now, granted, this was on Saturday. But look, there's 1:22 o'clock in the morning. Which would have been 10 o'clock at night, 10:22 at night, California time. There was an outgoing call for 4 seconds. And then there was an outgoing call for 16 minutes. So that from the president, which says is proof that he spoke to Gavin Newsom early in the morning, our time, late at night, Friday night, would have been June 6th, I guess, in Los Angeles. So, Governor, over to you for the response.
I was say that's next, right? We're waiting to see what if Governor Newsom has a response to the president's. Essentially, what he has there is the receipt for what he says is the call that was made.
That's why you gotta love President Trump, man. Whether you like him or not, he's the most transparent president in history.
And the long conversation, yeah, exactly. And a 16-minute conversation, as you mentioned, as things were heating up, is the timing of that call, as things were really just beginning to.
And I find it funny because Gavin Newsom is so busy saying Trump didn't give me a call. Trump is insane. But through this whole riot in his state where he's a governor, which is Los Angeles or California, he's silent, right? So it's mind blowing to me because it's bigger than a phone call. Because now here's the part people would have missed if Trump wasn't transparent and just showed the receipts. Because this ain't about just one phone call. This is a pattern, a strategy of denial, deflection, and narrative control. And Newsom thought Trump wouldn't say anything, and he gambled that nobody would check because most people don't. But when Trump brings proof, it shows you something deeper, right? that some of the leaders are banking on your ignorance as we the people and are counting on us not checking the facts, not reading between the lines, just swallowing what the media gives you. And that's why this little phone call matters, because it exposes a tactic that's way more common than people realize. Lie confidently, act like the victim running into the Victim Olympics, and hope the other guy can't prove you wrong. But what happens when they can, right? And let's dive deeper, right? Strong words or strong leadership. We all know that Gavin Newsom has the strong words because he always want to talk, 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 talk. Because from my belief, when the riots was happening, he was focusing on doing his podcast, in my opinion. With strong leadership like Trump got on the phone and said, get your ASS in gear, right? So let's look at what Trump said. Let's speak about what Trump said reportedly in a call, right? He told Newsom, as you guys heard in the clip, get your ASS in gear and stop the riots. Now, listen, I get it. Some folks don't like the tone. It's aggressive or whatever the case may be. It might be to the public opinion. It's harsh. But here's the question. When a major city is on fire, is tone a priority or results? Because leadership in a crisis isn't about sounding nice, it's about being effective here. And you don't have to like Trump to recognize this. He made a call, he issued a clear directive, and he followed up with the action. Now, mind you, it's mind blowing to me that Gavin Newsom is coming at Donald Trump saying, oh, you deployed the Marines and so forth, da 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 da. But at the end of the day, the Trump is acting more on the behalf of your city that you're a governor, well, on your behalf of your state, you're a governor, and really is working backwards because the president is acting on behalf of being a president and saving your behind and being a governor at the same time while you're a governor sitting on your behind doing a podcast. Because really it's supposed to work your way up. If the mayor can't do it, then the Mayor Karen Bass, she's horrible. Then the governor, they're doing the best they can. Then the president deploys Marines and so forth. But you got the president acting faster than the mayor and the governor in the city. While the governor is silent and the mayor is telling police and individuals to stand down while the city is being destroyed. So you guys tell me what real strong leadership is, because one political leader, Gavin Newsom, and we can say Karen Bass too, they got strong words but can't back it up and not doing a darn thing. And Trump is. So who really cares about the people? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. It don't take rocket science to know that. So, look, meanwhile, the governor pretending the call never happened. So you got to ask yourself, who's performing and who's producing is where I'm getting at. I think it's pretty clear. But now I want to give you an example, right? Because let's go to this. This was doing back in 1992. I wasn't even born yet. I'm a 99 baby. After the Rodney King verdict, LA was burning. Literally, it was chaos. So what did President George H.W. Bush do? Right? He sent in federal troops. He activated the National Guard, FBI, Border Patrol, Marines, SWAT teams, you name it. And you know what they called it back then? Restoring order. But don't take my word for it. Check out the clip.
One is the urgent need to restore order. What followed Wednesday's jury verdict in the Rodney King case was a tragic series of events for the city of Los Angeles. Nearly 4,000 fires, staggering property damage, hundreds of injuries, and the senseless deaths of over 30 people. To restore order right now, there are 3,000 National Guardsmen on duty in the city of Los Angeles. Another 2,200 stand ready to provide immediate support. To supplement this effort, I've taken several additional actions. First, this morning I've ordered the Justice Department to dispatch 1,000 federal riot-trained law enforcement officials to help restore order in Los Angeles, beginning tonight. These officials include FBI SWAT teams, special riot control units of the U.S. Marshals Service, the Border Patrol, and other federal law enforcement agencies. Second, another 1,000 federal law enforcement officials are on standby alert should they be needed. Third, early today, I directed 3,000 members of the 7th Infantry and 1,500 Marines to stand by at El Toro Air Station, California. Tonight, at the request of the governor and the mayor, I have committed these troops to help restore order. I am also federalizing the National Guard, and I'm instructing General Colin Powell to place all those troops under a central command.
All right. So they say history repeats itself, right? No one's calling George H.W. Bush a fascist. No one said he was a dictator. He was the president, and he acted. But now in 2025, Trump does the exact same thing, and suddenly it's tyranny, right? It's tyranny. Same playbook, same city, same methods. So why the double standard? And if you want me to take it a step further, why is it the double standard for the Democratic Party all of a sudden? So they can do it, but Donald Trump can't do it. Democrats can do it, but it's bad when Republicans do it. Oh, let me take a thought about that. Is it because someone in your party, the individual that you wanted to be that you wanted in your party, like Kamala Harris to be president, is not president right now? So go against the acting president because they're not the president of your party to your liking. When does it become looking deeper and diving deeper and thinking further and actually thinking bigger and actually respect to whoever the president is because the people have spoken, voted? But just because it's someone not to your liking that's in office, forget the respect of the presidency and forget, most importantly, above all, the respect of the people who elected the public official, which is the president. The same people that elected a Gavin Newsom in his seat. The same people that elected George H.W. Bush in his seat. Whether we liked their decisions or not, at the simple fact is, you can always say there was a standard upheld that's now have been gone because the Democratic Party is so caught up in having control that now they don't even care out of respect for the positions, let alone the profession that they have been chosen in their political career, rather that's a governor, rather that's a mayor, rather that's a vice president, president, etc. That's not even respected no more. So how can leaders advocate for, oh, I only agree with you and I only want to hear you, and you're not a bad person when you're not a bad person when you're part of the Get Along Go Along gang that I am a part of. But if you are not part of the Get Along Go Along gang that I am a part of, then we have a problem and you're a bad person. That's what it has come to. Bias. It tells you how much these public officials, and it has been showing more and more playing into the Republicans' hands, of why these Democrats do not care about the people who elected them and put them in the positions they are anyway, to even have the idea or to even fall into the extreme delusion of going so extreme of power that they want to uphold that they just can't let go of. No matter if the people speak or not, which their priority should be the American people, right? So like I said, why the double standard? Maybe the answer isn't political. Maybe it's emotional. People feel differently about Trump, so they react differently. But emotion doesn't change the facts. You can't say one president saved the city and the next one is destroying democracy for doing the same thing. And also, by the way, we have embraced the democracy system when it comes to voting. However, this is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. But however, that's not honesty. That's hypocrisy when it comes to, in this case, a Gavin Newsom, right? So, had to put that out there. Let's go on to the next clip. President Trump has been fully supported, has my full support to invoke the Insurrection Act, right?
Insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see, but I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible. We have, as you've seen, it was on most of your networks, people with big, heavy hammers pounding the concrete and pounding curbs, pounding it, breaking up all. and handing these big chunks of concrete to people. And they were taking that concrete, going up on bridges and dropping it into the roof of a car. They were throwing it at our police. They were throwing it at our soldiers that are there. And we got it stopped, and we have them in custody right now. Look, if we didn't get involved, right now, Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses that were lost. Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape. We're not playing around.
How will you determine whether or not there is an insurrection?
Well, you'll take a look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection. It was terrible. But these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They get money.
Keyword, paid, right? So let's talk about the organized chaos, right? Because he said paid. Think of it like this. We have come so far to the point where now paid individuals, the values and a respect for the country has detonated, has decreased, has been so not valued anymore to the point where individuals, Americans, individuals who see the country, in this case, United States, as a way of opportunity for immigrants, the land of the free for Americans who uphold Western culture, right? It has been now where you can be paid to diminish the value of this beautiful land of the United States of America. And everything that everyone comes over to the United States and see value in it. Now, even to the point where they see value in it, but if you don't do what they say, or if they don't receive what they want to their liking now, because their sense of entitlement is at all-time high, they will they want to destroy the country to the point where they have basically said, forget valuing the beauty of the United States, and they can be paid to destroy it. It just tells how much, it just shows their character and what they really stand for. So you have some people that are chameleons, right? They can blend in when it's to their liking, but as soon as it's not, they take the mask off and then they really show who they really are, which can be energy given off of destruction, negativity, and etc. So during the riot, you had people out there with shields, goggles, radios, full riot gear, not random looters, trained, equipped, mobilized teams. They're not random looters. Again, they're trained, equipped, mobilized teams. I said that twice because they don't even see the bigger picture that when you destroy businesses, big box stores, you want to destroy CVS and all of that, they'll just move out. You won't see them in the community no more, which then jobs be lost, and then you walk around saying, where's the jobs around here? You destroyed them. Now, when it comes to small businesses, individuals who work their butt off in their hard-earned money to then chase the dream and their American dream as the land of the free, to pursue and make their vision become a reality by attributing to the community with what value they got to create a business serving the people, is being destroyed, which then they'll make an insurance claim, get the money, and move out. So now you don't even have individuals pouring back into their community because small businesses is leaving out because they don't have the money to constantly sustain individuals destroying it. And individuals that stay and repair their small business, they're doing it because they have no other option. They can't afford to move out. Right? So what I'm trying to get to is who paid for that? Train, equip, mobilize teams. These goggles, these shields, these radios, because that's not spontaneous outrage. That's logistics, okay? Turns out the Department of Justice started digging and names popped up like Neville Sigham, a billionaire with alleged ties to Chinese propaganda, pumping money into radical activist networks. Same networks connected to protests at Columbia, in this case, Columbia University, they say. Same ones pushing socialist messaging, anti-police campaigns, and revolutionary style action. Now, I want to use I want to really hone in on what I just said about anti-police campaigns to the point where defunding the police is a thing, where communities could be destroyed from not stopping crime to uphold the peace and safety for American people. We have gone that far, people. Just think of that for a minute. And if you think that's just grassroots activism, you haven't been paying attention. That's organized, funded, targeted, and very much intentional. But don't take my word for it. Let's check out the clip. I'm gonna scrub around for a minute. Let's check out the clip. This is Neville Singham.
A really great deep dive here from the Data Republican on X. So who is behind all these crazy riots in LA and that will be across the nation? Just like remember in the Summer of Love with BLM, remember who's organizing all that stuff? With this specifically is being funded by an individual by the name of Neville Singham, who actually made his money by pushing communist Chinese propaganda, became a billionaire doing it. He's now funding, and the guy behind all of these protests was also behind and tied to the protests at Columbia University, pushing all of that BS, if you don't remember. And then also, too, if you actually look at the social organization that's putting out these flyers, it's the Party for Socialism and Liberation, which is, and I kid you not, the actual Communist Party. So they're using Hispanics, they're using illegal immigrants, they're trying to hype people up thinking that they care, but they don't care. They would stop illegal immigration. Obama deported people. Why all of a sudden now? It's political.
Yeah, it's political is a consensus because the simple fact is if they can raise the entitlement for illegal individuals, which is not following the law. We all know that because if American individual or citizen do not follow law, they will be somewhat prosecuted or penalized, and if it's to the extreme, they will be prosecuted to the fullest extent. So let's not act like this is foreign here when it comes to doing illegal things and being illegal when it comes to an illegal citizen that is not supposed to be in the country. When you had 25 plus years to a decade and more to file papers and do it the right way, out of respect for those who have done it the right way, out of respect for the country, right? Because you can't go to other countries. An American can't go to other country and just live there without following the rules of Mexico or China, right? Taiwan, wherever you want to say, right? So now I want to show you guys. It says come far to the point where gangs are becoming peacemakers. Gangs. Check this out. Copyright. You guys get the gist, right? You guys get the gist. This is a gang. They have become peacemakers. And it's so bad in some neighborhoods where gangs started stepping up to maintain peace. And just let that hit you for a minute. The streets started doing the job the government refused to do, the government refused to do in this case, the mayor of the city of Los Angeles and the governor, Gavin Newsom. So in Compton, a gang declared that their area is a riot-free zone. And look, I'm not saying street gangs are the model of order, but the fact that it came to that should tell you how badly leadership dropped the ball. If a mayor or governor can't protect the city and gangs are filling the gap, gang members who are is not a good thing, but gang members have enough sense to know that this is wrong, that it's dysfunction happening. That's not just dysfunction, that's collapse, okay? However, now I want to show you Mayor Karen Bass. She's saying that President Trump continues to enforce the immigration laws of this country. Her voters will continue to riot. So she's condoning in this.
But the real solution of all of this is for the administration to stop the raids. We have heard that these raids might take place for the next 30 days. We don't know how many are going to take place in a given day. And you just think about the disruption to families and the disruption to our local economy. But the real solution of all of this is for the administration to stop the raids. We have heard that these raids might take place for the next 30 days. We don't know how many are going to take place in a given day. And you just think about the disruption to families and the disruption to our local economy. But the real solution of all of this is for the administration to stop the raids. We have heard that these raids might take place for the next 30 days. We don't know how many are going to take place in a given day. And you just think about the disruption to families and the disruption to our local economy. But the real solution of all of this is for the administration to stop the raids. We have heard that these raids might take place for the next 30 days. We don't know how many are going to take place in a given day. And you just think about the disruption to families and the disruption to our local economy. But the real solution of
All right. We heard you, girl. We heard you. We heard you. So, it's mind blowing to me. It's mind blowing to me. I want you guys to check out this because a federal judge turned down Gavin Newsom's request to restrict President Trump from using National Guard to restore order.
Denied the state of California's request to stop Trump from using the California National Guard to keep the peace and keep order during these protests. CNN's Elena Treen is at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where President Trump is speaking. And Elena, that's a big development, the judge denying California's request. Tell us about that, and tell us what the president has been saying in his Fort Bragg speech.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal for the president here and his administration. And we heard just moments ago.
Denied the state
of
California.
All right, so I want to show you guys another clip. I showed you guys the gang members. Now look at this. This is organizers of LA protests are now assembling and handing out American flags to protesters. This came after days of footage showing them waving Mexican flags while torching cars, attacking police, and burning United States flags. You know what I'm saying? This is wild. This is disrespectful. It's clear they realized the current optics were a disaster, and now they're intentionally using American flags in an attempt to rebrand and reshape the existing media narrative of the riots, right?
Are you going to help those American flags? We got rid of all of them when they started coming. We were sitting ducks here, so we
How many did you guys be able to
Oh, wait.
play?
I
think we got 5 or 6 out.
If you ask the Subaru right there,
but they're not put together.
Oh, they're not put together.
They're not put together.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that was a good idea.
Right.
We're gonna bring them back out.
We're gonna bring them back out after.
Yeah. We might be back out in an hour.
Yeah.
They're marching from this. They're gonna start coming this way.
Yeah.
I think that was a good idea after yesterday.
Yes.
But anyway, thank you guys.
Right on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Where'd you get the American flag? Down on Wait, where? He just handed it to me because I was on the top. It's like a random guy.
So they're rebranding the American flag. That's the sense of entitlement, how high it got. So this is President Trump speaking at Fort Bragg, revealed that Department of Justice is already investigating who's financing the riots.
Stomp on them, but they're too tough. They don't allow it. And attempting to infiltrate and occupy federal buildings wearing armor and face shields. The best money can buy, somebody's financing it. We're going to find out through Pam Bondi and Department of Justice who it is. They're already on it. Who's financing all this equipment? Very professional. Under the Trump administration, this anarchy will not stand. We will not allow federal agents to be attacked, and we will not allow an American city to be invaded and conquered by a foreign enemy. And that's what they are. A lot of those people were let in here by the Biden administration. They just poured.
Yep, because it's all a consensus, family. The simple fact is the Democratic Party wants to stay in control, so they realize that the American people are asking questions, and they don't want people to ask questions. They want you to believe what they say, not what they do. And if they can raise the consensus by allowing individuals in, like illegals, in exchange for their vote, and to have a more loyal party so they remain in control and never out of control. The simple fact is give them a bone, give a dog a bone, and he'll catch it, right? So they'll give incentivizing these illegals to stay here, but also in exchange for their vote. So the Democratic Party stays in control, so they will never be out of power. and it's ignorant to the American people because the American people are questioning their actions and they want real actions behind their words. But then if you incentivize someone and be the hand that's feeding you, how can you question someone that's feeding you? In this case, they're giving illegal immigrants free healthcare, free social services, things like that. They were also incentivizing to actually give them houses and stuff like that. So the thing is, would you really, if you come from another country which isn't as privileged as America, and then you will be able to come to America with all these incentives and you know, um, not only incentives but all these handouts, it raises the entitlement, and then it also creates loyalty to the Democratic Party, because then why would you sit there and go against the hand that's feeding you, right? But however, this is where it gets interesting, because you think immigrants, especially Latinos and Asians, would solidly be anti-Trump, right? Well, that's wrong, because in 2020, Democrats had a 32-point lead on immigration issues with immigrant voters. Today, Republicans are up 8 points.
Start off on the fact that immigrant citizens, immigrant voters, foreign-born voters have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats, more so than any other group that I could find. The group of voters who became more hawkish on immigration were, in fact, immigrants themselves, immigrants who are registered to vote in this country.
So that's on that issue. How about how they feel about, kind of traditionally, historically, about Donald Trump?
Yeah, so, you see this shift and you go, what is going on underneath the hood? Well, take a look, Donald Trump. You remember when he first ran back in 2016, immigrant voters were one of his weakest spots. But look at this, Trump's vote share in presidential elections among, again, immigrant citizens, those who are registered to vote. Look at this. In 2016, he got 36% of the vote. You go to 2020, 39% of the vote. Look at this, in 2024, all the way up to 47% of the vote.
That says a lot.
Some polls I looked at had him barely losing that vote. Some polls I looked at had him barely winning that vote. Again, there is no block of voters that shifted more to the right from 2020 to 2024 than immigrant voters. And Donald Trump, at least in some surveys, actually won that vote. On average, it's about equal. So there may be all this stuff, right, about undocumented immigrants and Trump being harsh on them, but immigrant voters themselves have increasingly liked Donald Trump and have increasingly moved to the right on immigration and into the Republican camp.
Well, then on that, what you're getting at, how immigrant citizens, voters, feel about people in the country illegally.
Yeah, and this is where it all kind of comes together, Kate Baldwin. Look at this. The net favorable rating, immigrants who are here illegally, among immigrant citizens, again, those registered to vote. In 2020, look at this, plus 23 points on the net favorable rating. But look at where we were in 2024, minus 6 points, underwater. So immigrant citizens have become increasingly unfavorable in their views of those immigrants who are here illegally. So I think it's so important when we're talking about this debate from a political angle to separate those out who are undocumented immigrants versus those who are here legally and those who are citizens and those who are voters, because that group of voters has felt increasingly distant from those immigrants who are here legally. And so again, when we're talking about this, at least from a political angle, this is why Donald Trump feels so comfortable, because in fact, amongst the group that you would think that would be most opposed to this, in fact, they become increasingly favorable, not just towards Donald Trump, but towards a Republican point of view on immigration and becoming distant from those immigrants who are here illegally.
Yeah, an important
Well, that's a 40-point swing in just 4 years. Why? Because illegal immigrants are watching Democrats reward illegal immigrants and illegal immigration. They waited in line, paid fees, took tests, learned English, became citizens, and now they're watching the system bend over backwards for people who ignored all of that, and they're pissed. And they are not becoming racist or right-wing extremists. They're becoming realists. Because when a party forgets who followed the rules to chase who didn't, that's not justice, that's betrayal. So let's be honest. The media have played a massive role in all of this. They're not here to inform. They're here to frame. If Trump deploys troops, it's tyranny. If Bush did it, It was leadership. If immigrants vote Republican, they become manipulated. If they vote Democrat, they're the future of America. Y'all, this is not journalism. This is a narrative or narrative engineering, because confused people are easy to control. But when folks start asking questions, start pulling receipts, and start comparing facts, that's when the machine starts to shake. So yeah, Newsom lied, Trump dropped receipts, but this is bigger than those two men. This is about who you trust, why you trust them, and what happens when you let politics replace principles. People are waking up, immigrant voters, independent voters, everyday folks, because at some point you realize if everything is fake, then only truth matters. And when truth becomes the enemy of power, that's when you know something's deeply broken. So let me end on this. Don't let anyone, politician, influencer, or news anchor do the thinking for you. Ask questions, look for receipts, and trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And if this video gave you something to think about, hit like and subscribe. Hit that like button and subscribe and drop a comment. And let's keep the convo going. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and don't ever stop searching for the truth. Peace and power to you, family. Peace.